Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Eve as I record this video to go out today. And I was sent something last night that I hope will put a big smile and a cheer on all those people who have had that knock on the door from bailiffs and enforcement officers to deal with things like arrears and council tax. And I hope this will give a big smile, because some important information has suddenly come into my hands, and I dare say a number of other people's hands who are in the same business of reporting on lawful things or legal and things. And I think this is going to be very exciting, and I want to share it with you immediately. Now, you need to just double check this and do your own due diligence, and this is not legal advice or anything like that, but I want you to be aware of it so that you can check it out. And of course, the links will be in the description. So this is, I think, very good news for a lot of people. Let's have a look at what was sent in late last night to me by one of my wonderful viewers. And here it is. Council tax debts become unenforceable overnight. I mean, hard to believe, but here we have had some jolly good news. And I will leave the links here to the legislation.gov.uk, Schedule 12 it is. So, here we go. A new landmark ruling effectively prevents enforcement agents from seizing goods in connection with council tax and even entering anyone's property. It hands defendants a £4,000 Christmas bonus if they sue the bailiffs for illegal enforcement. So how does this work? Let's have a look. When a council obtain a liability order, they will seek to enforce this order by way of sending in enforcement officers, sometimes known as bailiffs. The conduct of these enforcement officers is strictly controlled under the Tribunals, Courts and Enforcement Act of 2007. In Schedule 12, it details that the enforcement officer must show their identity and the proof of authority from the court that entitles them to be on the premises. Note that it's from the court, not the council. And here we have another link, and I'll put these links into the same schedule. In Section 26, it shows as follows. In the recent case of Leighton versus Bristol and Souter, that was ironically published on the winter solstice, which would have been the 21st, the judge ruled that the document used by the enforcement agents was unlawful and was not in accordance with the above act, because all they did was simply show their instructions from the council to enforce the debt rather than the order from the court. Consequently, Mr. Leighton was awarded £4,000 damages plus cost plus interest. So this is amazing. This is amazing news. Christmas parasite cleanse, it goes on to say. This now means that anyone can use this judgment not only to fend off these parasites from their doorsteps, but to actually sue them for damages unless they show the correct paperwork. And this is where the fun starts. You see, collusion between the courts and the councils have now led to their downfall. In order to make it progressively easier for councils to resist requests from defendants for the council to prove a liability order. Hang on, let me just read that again. In order to make it progressively easier for the councils to resist requests from defendants for the council to prove a liability order was actually granted, the courts were persuaded to do away with the old-fashioned written liability order signed by a judge, and instead ruled that the oral pronouncement of the order was all that was required, which means the enforcement companies now have a big problem to provide written proof that any order was even granted, because as we know, the recordings in the courts are illegal. Now, I'm just going to stop there, because that's the key part of this whole message. And I just want to show you, hang on if I can find the relevant document now, which I thought I just had on the screen, and it's I think I've killed it, which is a bit of a nuisance. Hang on, let me just go and grab the document one more time from the relevant file that I've got here. Right, here we go. Now, this is and I've shown this before, this is the Justice Clerk Society Procedure in Liability Order Applications, okay, revised in 2023. There's a whole load of gumph that you can read, but number 4 is the important bit, which is I've just alluded to in that document that was sent to me. It's here, this bit. It says, the order is made when the presiding judge pronounces it, and it is recorded in the court register. See section 3. Since repeal of the prescribed order, there has been no court-produced order. So in other words, the judge pronounces it, but since the repeal, there has been no court-produced order. So there's no bit of paper, basically. And then it goes on, the council software should generate a notice, it's just a notice, it's not an order, that the order has been made, which is sent to the defendant. They should not be signed or endorsed with the name of the JP or court officer. So that's fascinating. So although they told the council, yeah, hello council, you can do what you need to do, it seems now a judge has ruled that you need to produce the court order. But there is no order, because he only says it at the hearing, and that is supposed to be good enough because it will speed things up. Well, let's go on and carry on with this interesting document. So, in effect, the new court ruling has mandated that enforcement companies must provide something that doesn't exist. And if they turn up on somebody's doorstep illegally, then they can be sued for £4,000 for not having the correct paperwork, or maybe even arrested. Welcome to the Christmas feast of whoop-ass, as it says here. How delicious it is when the universe serves up multiple cans of whoop-ass on these corrupt and mendacious entities that have played upon the vulnerable in society for too long. Hear, hear. The law also stipulates that the enforcement company must provide the required paperwork in advance. And therefore, anyone that puts the enforcement company and or the council on notice of this can prevent them from even turning up. But, it says here, it gets even better. In the judgment, the applicant was disbarred from obtaining damages under the Harassment Act in 1997 on the basis that the conduct of the enforcement company naturally entitled some element of harassment due to the fact that it was their job to take people's stuff away and were acting lawfully and in good faith when doing so. But here is the kicker. When they are put on notice of their obligations under the new ruling to provide written proof from the court of their entitlement to attempt to distress goods, and they turn up without the necessary proof, then they are not entitled to claim that their actions are in good faith and in accordance with the law. And therefore, because they are not there lawfully, they can have no reasonable excuse under the Harassment Act of 1997, and therefore they are breaching it, potentially a criminal offence. And the sender says, Christmas behind bars. So, ladies and gentlemen, digest that. Digest that. If you are sadly in arrears, or you have no liability order, or you cannot see the contract that you signed with the council tax, and you believe that this is a fraudulent tax, whatever, you may have just fell behind like many people do, or because of the pressures at the moment that are going on, this is absolutely fantastic. I think it also means that in the case when they came for me, which there was no warrant, there was no court order. They just turned up, these enforcement agents, and said, well, we're going to take your van away. And I said, no, you're not. And I was very ill at the time, as you may remember. I think this, unless they've got the warrant or the court order, they cannot go and do that. And in the case of the council tax, the liability order does not exist. So they cannot show something that does not exist. And they may wave a bit of paper in front of you, but it's probably from the council and not from the court. So be cautious, because they will use every trick in the book. But of course, they have to send this in advance, in which you can then send a notice and say, well, that's fine, but show me the liability order. And they can't. And so then if they turn up, it is harassment. And that is a criminal offence. So there we are, a bit of Christmas cheer for those people who are vulnerable and are being worried about their council tax payments, they're behind, and all of that. It is all good news. I wish you a very Merry Christmas. I wish you good tidings of joy. And please do not worry. For the year ahead, you'll see my Christmas message tomorrow, but the year ahead is going to be interesting. And stay optimistic, and it'll all be good. Until then, thank you for watching. Look after yourselves and be kind to one another.